Hello, my friends. I don't think I've ever gone live on this page. I normally go live over on Instagram, but I thought I'd try it here. I am getting ready to close off my pre and postnatal yoga teacher training called the Mama Love Yoga teacher training. And I wanted to pop in here and talk a little bit about pelvic floor health and why it is important for us as yoga teachers to understand and have knowledge of the pelvic floor. And I know a lot of people on this page specifically aren't teachers, they are yoga students. And if you are a yoga student and not a yoga teacher, this is still really important information for you to know. The first thing you need to know about pelvic floor health and pelvic floor dysfunction is that pelvic floor dysfunction is not just leaking, incontinence, or pelvic organ prolapse. Dysfunction can be sexual dysfunction. It can be pain, anywhere from low back pain to pubic bone pain to sit bone pain, tailbone pain. It can be constipation. It can be hemorrhoids. And so if we do not have the understanding of the pelvic floor and how it functions and what kind of pains go into pelvic floor dysfunction, then we can't address our students properly. And as students, if we don't understand what we're feeling and we just think, oh, I just have low back pain, I'm gonna go take this yoga class and it'll fix my back pain, it could be something completely different. So understanding, having knowledge of the pelvic floor runs just a little bit deeper than knowing that it is leaking, incontinence, and pelvic organ prolapse. So that's the first thing. The second thing we need to understand is that pelvic floor dysfunction can actually affect emotional health. There's research that shows us that our pelvic floor reacts to how we're dealing with our emotions and in our environment. So we definitely respond to our environment. Our pelvic floor responds to our environment. It also responds to our stress levels. And so as a yoga teacher, if you're thinking about your students and you understand that your students are coming in, and especially prenatal, postpartum students, they probably have already a high degree of stress or overwhelm, or especially new moms, and you're thinking about their emotional health, you have to actually worry about their pelvic floor health too, because when we get stressed out, we can hold that in our pelvic floor. So our pelvic floor symptoms can ramp up when we are feeling stressed, when we are feeling nervous, frustration, anger, all of that stuff can show in our pelvic floor health. So as a teacher, we need to understand how our students could be affected if they're coming into a class, they have never taken yoga before, or they're having stuff go on in their home life. They're coming into our class and we're either teaching these really challenging classes, we're not giving them the opportunity to take breaks, we're not actually talking to them about themselves or their mental health, we're just kind of rushing them through a class, or we're not thinking about how a new pose or a stressful pose could be transferring over to their emotional and mental health. The third thing I think is really important for us to understand or to consider when we're thinking about pelvic floor health is that the more we know, the more knowledge we have of the pelvic floor and the function of the pelvic floor, the more we are able to talk about it. We are able to have conversations. We are able to teach classes where students feel free to ask questions. They're not embarrassed about functions in their body. It is part of the body just like anything else. So if we're talking about shoulders, necks, hips, knees, backs, we should also be discussing the pelvic floor, especially in prenatal and postpartum classes. So the more we know, the more we understand, the better we are able to address it, the more help we can offer our students, and the more confidence we can offer to our students. The other thing about knowledge and understanding is that we can refer out easier. So if you know a student is suffering with something that looks like a pelvic floor consideration or a pelvic floor issue, we can't treat them, obviously, unless you are a PT or a OBGYN, but you can refer them out to someone you think is qualified to treat them, building trust with your students. So I wanted to make this short and brief. These videos normally don't go over very well when they're super long, but my 3 points were that we need to understand pelvic floor dysfunction better, and that it's not just leaking and prolapse. There's other kinds of dysfunction, and that dysfunction can play into our emotional health and vice versa. And then the more we know, the more we're able to help our students, create trust with our students, and refer our students out. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, I'll be closing the Mama Love teacher training at the end of the week, because I'm gonna have my third baby soon and I wanna be home, relaxing, resting, and just taking care of myself. So if you're interested, I will put the link in the description. It is a great training focusing on pelvic floor health, emotional health for pregnancy and postpartum for yoga teachers. I will see you next time.